Now, this week, we're joined by someone who is behind two of the Mandalorian's most iconic characters. Iconic for different reasons as well. She protects her eggs from a naughty little Grogu. And by the end of this conversation, you're gonna know that she has spoken. It's Misty Rosas. How are you, Misty?
Hello, I'm well. How are you?
So very good. We're so glad to have you on the show this week, aren't we, Luke?
Oh, mate, I am so excited to talk to the Kuill, the fish lady,
Frog lady.
Misty. Right? Oh, yes, frog lady. So does anyone ever call you that in the street, Misty? Do they shout, frog lady? And you're like, oh.
No.
Not yet, anyway.
Not yet.
Not yet.
I did have a moment when season 1 had just premiered, and it was back before COVID, and I was out with my roommate and some friends, and the party that was sitting next to us was talking about The Mandalorian, and they were so excited, and my roommate wanted to say something, and it's like, nope.
And
we just want to have a drink and enjoy ourselves.
So was this when The Mandalorian had released, or while it was airing? When was that?
It was literally probably a week or two after it had released, because people were just blown away and excited. And, obviously Kuill had been in the first 2 episodes. So everybody was talking about the show. And my roommates, they just thought it was so cool. And they're like, can we say something? And it's like, no. No, you can't.
Wow, that's surreal. That is surreal. And that's the thing, Misty. The more this goes on, the less kind of that is going to happen, I think, because people will recognize you. They'll be like, "Oh my days." It's cool, especially the hardcore Star Wars fans. If you're going to be in like a city where Star Wars Celebration is going to be, man, you're going to have to just walk around with sunglasses.
The geeks will recognize you.
Yeah, I think so. So, Misty, do you want? I know that obviously you are into acting. You've got a great CV of that, and you also worked at Disney. Is that right?
Yes, that was actually my very first professional job. I got hired at 18 years old to be part of the original cast of Fantasmic, and that's where it all started. And obviously, because of my height, I'm tiny, tiny, tiny. I'm only 4'9". I was put into the character costume. So that was, the very beginning of my training and learning how to embody characters that are in suits. So.
Wow.
Which is a skill, which is a talent, which has stayed with you or enabled you to obviously get into these roles such as Kuill, such as Frog Lady. And, well, obviously I know you've worked on Kathleen Kennedy productions before, way back when on Congo with my boy Ernie Hudson. That was obviously produced by Kathleen Kennedy. So, was that a contact that you kept up? Did you have any kind of communique relationship with Kathleen Kennedy after appearing in those films? That then made the phone call from Lucasfilm, something you maybe expected.
Actually, no. Obviously, throughout the years, I'd auditioned for certain things, but just wasn't quite, right for the roles. Which I get that. That's part of this business. But it was kind of really nice to. I met her at the very beginning of my career. I was in college when my former gymnastics coach that I trained with as an elite gymnast, the production company, obviously from Congo, reached out to him because they were having trouble finding the right people to cast in these roles as the gorillas, because it's a very specific body type that they needed. As far as height and your upper body strength and physical and cardiovascular strength, it was just so necessary. So it was like a fork in the road, and I got cast in that role, and I loved it, and it's like, this is where I want to be. And so it's kind of it just took off from there. And, then after that film, it's not like I went backwards, but I went on to that trajectory, which was then going to acting class, really continuing my dance class training, voice training, all of it. And so then to have lived so much life and, come back around to then be a part of Lucasfilm and seeing, Kathy again and stuff, it was really kind of cool because like a lot of time has happened and I've grown up and I am comfortable, obviously, on a film set now because I knew nothing when we were preparing and shooting Congo. It's just this crash course, and it was quite overwhelming, I will say. So, yeah, but again, an amazing experience.
Oh, that is amazing.
That's
and it's
cool.
crazy how when we've had the absolute privilege of speaking to a few people who've been in Star Wars, and the story seems to be like, oh yeah, I've done this, and then I seem to have a knack for this, a talent for this, and then it's led to Star Wars. Like the Force guided you there. I really want to ask about the first time you got the call. Was it from an agent? Was it from someone directly at Disney or Lucasfilm to say, listen, we have a role in mind for you? Or how did the process go? Because I know it can be terribly secretive, can't it? Especially for the first live action Star Wars series.
Yes, absolutely. The production contacted my agent, and I will say that it was a back and forth between my agent, me, and production, because they were asking for, and again, my agent was so frustrated with me because at the time I was really focused on my music and, opening act gigs with Air Supply, and she had asked politely many times for my, my new demo reel of all of my character work. And I was like, yeah.
I'll
get to it. Just totally blowing it off. Like, looking back at that now, it's like, oh, if you only knew what you were blowing off, come on. So, because I kept sending her clips, and she would send these clips to production, which, mind you, I'm sure is like John Favreau and Dave Filoni. And it's just like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. So then after so many, back and forths of sending clips, they're like, well, we would like to, for her to come in and have a cold read audition with Seraphin Casting. Now, at the time, I had no idea what I was auditioning for. And so I just went in for this cold read. I kind of sat there. They gave me, obviously, after signing the NDA, they gave me my script, and I sat in the waiting room. And I'm looking around at all of the posters, and it's all of these amazing, big blockbuster films. It's like, okay, I'm somewhere really cool. So, I don't know what I'm doing, but, I'm just going to give this everything I've got. And I definitely, it is like you said, there are some things that are just meant for you. And to be honest, I connect so deeply with Kuill, not only having had a lot of experience, training as an actor, but I discovered yoga in 2001, and I had been practicing pretty, very frequently, like at least 4 to 5 times a week. And then I discovered Bikram yoga, and then I decided to go to teacher training. And so I've been teaching my yoga students since 2006. It's just a little side job, a karma job that I do. But that journey is very much the reason that I resonated with Kuill, and his wisdom. Like, he is a teacher, that type of wisdom that he embodies. So my karma job really did help me to understand and to be able to deliver for that, role.
I feel bad because Misty's talking about finding yoga. All I found was yogurt, and I've had too much of it. But well, on Kuill and Frog Lady as well, you've gone in. You've obviously signed this doorstop of an NDA, and you found out that what potentially this could be something pretty big. When you first saw, or when did you first see the concept art or the art indeed for Kuill and Frog Lady? What were your impressions? Because obviously, Kuill, he's an Ugnaught. He's a funny looking chap. So, what did you think when you first saw the character that you would be playing in the Mando?
I was just like, okay, I'm a male. All right. So, and again, I've done a lot of work, both with male and female characters. And so how I know how to shift and adapt, like the way that I walk and my gait and the way that I hold my body. That is obviously the very telling at first. And then for me, it has to do with obviously putting on the costume. Fortunately, the weight of that costume helped me to really ground myself and, move slowly. Because he's about 150 years old. So, and, I just kind of incorporated from my stunt work. One of the rehearsals I had done for a job, I tore my calf muscle. So I incorporated a limp on that leg, which was, part of, his character. So
I'm going to go back and watch that now.
So just bringing these things from my personal experience and my life to it. And then obviously it's like layers, just one layer at a time. He's a male character. The weight of the costume helps to ground me, to slow my movement. And then the brilliance of Nick Nolte and his delivery of the lines that he's amazing, and it made my job extremely easy as far as knowing and feeling my way through, because he is saying those words, so I just match his timing. So
wow, that is a lot, isn't it? Because so much work goes into it, and I don't think people quite realize how much work goes into it, because I know when Nick Nolte was kind of cast as, well, the voice anyway, I thought, I was under the impression he was in the costume, or they just put kind of like prosthetics onto his face. You know how they do that sometimes, and maybe they'd be doing kind of like some sort of other film cinematic technique, but no, it's the mix of both, isn't it? So that must have taken that must have taken a while to learn, to sync up the audio to the movement of the mouth, or was it the other way round?
They programmed at Legacy Effects. They were able to program the timing of some of it with the mouth, but I also had a puppeteer that was also adding some details to the lips and the mouth as well. So it did require me and, at least 2 puppeteers, sometimes 3, depending on the scenes and the wordiness of my character in the scene. And, fortunately for me, I've worked with, it was Stan Winston Studios when I began and when we worked on Congo. And then obviously over time, it's shifted to Legacy Effects, and I've been doing movies and commercials with these amazing artists throughout my career. So we've already built a bit of a rapport. But I think too, when we knew that it was Star Wars and obviously this very first live action series on television, we were so excited and really disciplined with, getting to set early and having a talk amongst our team first. And then I would do, the private rehearsals with Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and the director that we'd be working with. And my team was right there watching so that they could get a feel for my timing, what was happening in the scene. And then after that rehearsal, the other characters would go off to hair and makeup, and I'd run to our puppeteering station, and then we'd have a chat about the rehearsal and what we wanted to do together. And then Nick Nolte gave us the gift of saying the lines, giving 2 to 3 takes of each line with little varying pieces, like punching a certain word or a different energy, given to the lines, so that we could then map out and create his dialogue according to how the scene was kind of manifesting and coming together. So. Yeah. And then after that, they would put the contacts, which were Solera contacts in my eyes. Then they'd let my eyes kind of acclimate because my eyes would run a little bit at first. Yeah. And then they put the makeup around my eyes, and then I'd put my costume on, and then we'd go. So,
yeah. Wow. There's a lot of love and dedication, and from the sounds of it, tears that go into it, right? Mm-hmm. And again, maybe there's a lot of people that don't necessarily realize that. So that's amazing.
Yeah. I get the question often, how heavy was he? And it's I don't know. I didn't weigh it because it's not like I would say, well, maybe not. I'm not going to do it now.
You get the whole gear on and you're like, Dave, get some scales. Come on. Get some scales. Well, yeah, get some scales. I want to see.
Yeah. So it's not like I was going to walk away from it. So, from after my very first fitting of feeling the whole of the weight, I adjusted my workouts a little bit to a lot more cardiovascular workouts and a whole lot of squats with weights on my shoulders. So I could handle the weight of the costume. Yeah, he was heavy. So
he's a heavy boy, he's a thick boy. Mm-hmm. Well, with all of that work, attention to detail, as you say, the tears, all those squats, it must have been wonderful to hear, in terms of Kuill to start with, how much the fans took to the character. Because like you say, we had the great Nick Nolte voicing, but that's only, X amount of percent of the character. It's, to me, obviously the performance of the character and the mannerism, same with whoever's behind the Mandalorian mask at the time. That's what I associate with the character, is the hand movements, the kind of little salutes and kind of the demeanour, the way he carries himself, Kuill. So it must have been pretty gratifying and pretty satisfying for you as well to see the reaction to this character that you've brought to the small screen, the big screen, you've brought to the screen.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just been a very different experience from my first work, obviously at Disneyland, and into films and stuff like Congo and Instinct and the Country Bears. Yeah. You want to, and I've always known that you want to kind of create the magic and breathe the life into these characters, and the characters is what you would want to be memorable to, for the audience members. And so, I've always, pretty much throughout my career kind of have coasted along and people don't know, basically everything that I've done with, during my time in this career. And then, oftentimes be like, whoa, you did that. Whoa, you did that. And
you got to take William Shatner out.
Yeah, I did.
Come on.
Which, to be honest, that stressed me out, because usually when you do stunts, it's the stunt double, that you're working with. And I had no problem tackling him, but then they said, no, Bill wants to do it. I was like, oh God. So I was like, and I just did not, I was nervous because he's a, superstar, and you can't hurt him. So
wow. Try as you might.
Yeah. And I'll never forget the stunt coordinator, because it was a timing thing with him and James Spader and me coming at him. And the coordinator was kind of off to the side, and he's like, I will never forget that. I don't know how you did that, but it's almost like you move like a cat and you literally change your trajectory in the air in order to get him because the timing was slightly off. And it's like, whew, is that it? You know, and they're like, yep, we got it. So it's like, thank goodness.
Wow.
So it was pretty funny.
You know what? We talk about the legacy of Kuill, you know, in The Mandalorian. I remember a real standout memory for me when The Mandalorian season 1 was coming out was I was talking to a few friends at the office about it, and someone that I didn't really chat to that often came over and said, "Oh yeah, you've seen The Mandalorian?" I was like, "Look, yeah, of course. You know, I am the company Star Wars geek. Come on." And you know, they said, "Oh man, you know what I really loved in The Mandalorian?" I was like, "Yeah, go on." He said, "I loved the person that went, 'I have spoken.'" That was the standout. That was the standout for him. And it's funny how, and I think really with the show in general, it's become quite iconic. It's become like there are slogans on t-shirts from The Mandalorian. And although it might feel, you know, like ages away, it wasn't ages away. Like in a quick amount of time, it's become a huge pop culture superpower. And it must be crazy, Misty. It must be absolutely mind-boggling to think, wow, yeah, that is, I'm integral to that. You know, I was a huge part of that. But really as well, to expand on that, we have to thank and think of people like Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni. But I also wanted to ask, what was it like working with those guys and really dealing with kind of what the aftermath of this series was?
They are the nicest people. My very, very first experience, you know, coming to rehearsal was with Dave Filoni, and, you know, you're sitting there across from him at the table, and it's like, this is a legend here. It's like, what am I doing? So, but, you know, just trying to stay focused, and he's just so light and happy and joyous. It just makes for a really good energy on set while you're creating. You know, everything is just nice and light, and, you know, he keeps the energy up. And I just remember for season 1, the very first time you're introduced to Kuill, we shot that, I think, on 3 separate occasions, you know, and he just would laugh, and he's like, okay, we're going to try this again. 'Cause, you know, obviously, and I was like, I'm perfectly happy with that. I want it to be, I want us to get this right, you know, 'cause that first initial introduction of this new character, you know, you want people to be like, whoa, he's cool. So,
yes. Taking down a blog.
Yeah. I was fine with that. And then Jon Favreau, you know, I remember someone asking a whole bunch of the cast, like, you know, did you have any of those like starstruck moments? And I'm pretty sure every single one of us down the line is like, Jon Favreau. I always feel like such a dork when I'm next to him, nervous, and it's like, and sometimes he'll like sit and watch my rehearsals, and he'll be kind of within my eye line. It's like, no.
Just move away, John. You can't kick Jon Favreau out, can you?
He's just so cool and so nice, and I really connect with his style of writing. I love it. I love the words and the, you know, monologues he gives me to say, you know, especially Frog Lady's moment, and her emotional little speech about what is happening to her. Like, I just went for it because for me, I'm underneath that costume. So what I'm feeling has to be able to, you know, come through there. And so I needed to be obviously much bigger emotionally. So I did that, and just remember I'm doing this in front of Jon Favreau and Pedro, and like Pedro at the end of he's like, God, emotional frog. It just made me laugh.
You Pedro, you naughty boy.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Well, at the end of season 1, sad, and this actually was a sad moment, as it was for us fans, when Kuill he goes out like a hero, trying to get Grogu back to the or as he was known then, Baby Yoda, back to the ship. Did you think that was it for you in The Mandalorian then? Because your character has been taken out by the stormtroopers and is, by the end of it, unequivocally shown to be gone. He did. So were you worried or aware that you wouldn't be coming back, or did you know that you were coming back, for season 2?
I did not know. I remember getting my scripts, after all contracts and everything are signed, and reading them and being just from page 1, I was just like, oh, I'm hooked. I'm a fan. This story is amazing. And then it's like, oh yeah, I've got to focus because, my character's in there too. And then I got to the end of chapter 7 and I was just sat there. I literally started crying. I was like, no, because this character is so cool. And it was so sad, and kind of just sat there in disbelief for a second, just bummed, because one is like, no, I just got to Star Wars. I don't want to go out just yet. And 2, my second thought was, okay, you have a limited amount of time to embody this character, so make every second of your time on screen, for him, for Nick Nolte, for Legacy Effects, for Jon Favreau, for Dave Filoni, for the fans, make it memorable. So I was just focused to do the very best job I could. And, I was like, well, I did it, and I'm proud of this. And then I just move on. It's like, some things are meant for you and some just aren't. So I had no idea about season 2, and then I was super excited when they called and
let's
said,
talk about Frog Lady.
It's like, you have a fitting with Legacy Effects. It's like, I do? What? When? So
Matt, what was that? I want that recorded. I want that recorded and put on Spotify ASAP. Let's talk about Frog Lady.
We'll do it.
Well, no, let's talk about Frog Lady. I love the episodes with Frog Lady in The Mandalorian season 2. I love pretty much all of The Mandalorian, as does a lot of the world, evidently, especially seeing with it's getting so many Emmy nominations. Congratulations, by the way. Now, I've got to ask, Misty, there was a wee bit of backlash on episode 2 of Mandalorian season 2 with the eggs. Did you see any of that? Did you get any messages about that? I mean, how was that? Because your experience from season 1 was so positive, but then maybe to have a little bit of a Twitter crowd saying bits and bobs, what was that difficult at all?
For me, it's just, it comes with the territory. To be honest, we really did not think that people would react the way that they did. It was meant to be, I think, taken a little bit lighter. To be honest, because I had asked the question, he ate an entire frog in front of Kuill and Mando, like a live frog was jumping around, and nobody was upset about that.
I know.
But, this, I guess, and my personal understanding of all of it was he's a little baby. And the Mandalorian, Mando, he didn't come from a nurturing, loving family dynamic. He was also in a similar situation of just trying to survive. Then these 3 characters are put in this, moment in time where the stakes are high for them and they're just desperately trying to survive. each minute. So it becomes about survival mode, and there's like a learning lesson. He doesn't know any better because he's a baby, and he's hungry because Mando doesn't know how to feed him or be a daddy. So he's just like, oh, yay, food.
Yeah.
And I love these. So, it's like, and obviously the lesson was then learned and you saw it. And also, too, it gave this female character the opportunity to also teach and impart empathy and love and kindness towards another being. So, so I was okay with it.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I totally agree. In short, I totally agree, and I agreed even back then with your thoughts. So, yeah, it's a funny place, isn't it? The internet sometimes, but I can imagine that it can bring some stress. Just having the weight of like a role of like this, something like this. It's kind of it's hard to imagine. I think as a viewer, right? Because we're not in your industry, we're not actors. And I don't think, again, just like you're talking about the physical weight of, someone like Kuill. Oh, was Fish Lady, was Frog, why do I keep saying Fish Lady?
God, get it right, dude.
Someone's going to get the wrong idea. The Frog Lady, was the weight of Frog Lady as heavy as Kuill? Was that as tough?
She was tough for different reasons. She was hot. Like, that costume was very hot for me. Not quite as heavy, but I was also blind in the animatronic head. So that proved to, obviously, I've worked blind before. Congo, the animatronic head, you're blind. Instinct, animatronic head, you're blind. Country Bears. So I have a lot of experience working in those types of heads. What was heavy was the crate. And that was tricky for me because Legacy had designed and built the beautiful hands, and the space between thumb and index finger, even on our hands, the skin on hers was really, really soft and delicate. And I remember in, shooting the opening scene, I was tearing that area because the straps were leather on the crate, and the crate was so heavy. I was trying to use a little bit of my arm strength to keep the weight off of my back. And then, Tamara, who's one of the builders, she's like, can you try to not hold it like that? And so then trying to look like I'm holding it, but I had to put all of the weight on my lower back. That was intense. So yeah, she wasn't quite so heavy, but super, super hot, and the crate was heavy. So,
It was. I love the look of Frog Lady when we first saw her in chapter 10, and you mentioned obviously that you've got a female character who's got the weight of the world on her shoulders. To her, she's got the weight of her galaxy on her shoulders. And what I've noticed as well is there's a lot of love for Frog Lady. Firstly, because she's a boss, she's so cool. But for that, you see the scene in chapter 11 where she is with Frogman, finally reunited. I'll get to that. But she's with Grogu, so you've got to act with little baby. But they've got their spawn are there in the tub, and they're playing together. It's the one relationship in Star Wars that's lasted. The Star Wars and fiction in general has a bad habit of killing off the female characters to provide some kind of emotional stakes for the male to come up to. But in Frog Lady, we don't have that, which firstly is good. But secondly, we have that moment where she reunites with Frogman, which has become one of, just from the reactions we've got, one of the moments from season 2 that fans really resonated with, because it was, as Anakin would say, it was a happy moment. It was a happy moment of a character, having some good in their life in the galaxy. So when you're filming those scenes and reuniting with Frogman, at any point are you thinking, people are going to absolutely love this, or was it just another part of the scene for you?
Yeah, it was just it was a moment, both myself and my friend John Cameron, who was my frog husband. It's there's so much that we have to think about and do on top of just, acting in the scene, because he couldn't see super well. I couldn't really see at all. And, trying to count our steps, find our timing, go through the way that, and remember, we worked together so much. I've worked with him for years at the Jim Henson Company on the television shows, Sid the Science Kid, and now Word Party. And so we built a rapport. So without even talking, it looked like we were kind of doing a dance, but we were going quickly through, okay, we meet, and then, you help me put the crate down, and then we're down, and then I, touch your face, and then, so it was this like whole little quick, fast dance that we did, but it's just us really going through as fast as we can, because we can't see each other at all, and you can't really feel. So, blocking and doing that, and then just trying to, is another moment where, thank goodness, my quadricep muscles are so strong, because it was literally a day of squats for me, because the crate is heavy. So, squatting down and putting it down, and then having our moment, and then Mando and Grogu come in, and then, I put it back on my shoulders and press back up. So, literally for almost,
3 days of workout.
I would say, 12 hours that day. Running and squats is what it was all about.
The glamorous life.
Yeah, but I will say that's kind of the magic of Twitter for me was all of the fans that made videos with 80s songs, like 80s love songs.
Yes, of them running towards each other.
Dying. Yeah, the publicity department had message me. They're like, "You're trending on Twitter." It's like, oh,
that's what you should have been.
Yeah, that was seriously one of my favorite parts. Is everybody is so talented, and I'm all about presenting positivity, kindness, and love and respect for everybody. So that's what I always appreciate when I'm on social media and stuff. And so the fans are just the sweetest. So, and just tagging me and sharing all of the fun videos.
That's part of the fun, isn't it? That is part of the fun. And I think Mabel and I were joking prior to this interview, like this week, we were like, oh man, like when you think about it, Frog Lady, Frogman, they are like the only successful couple in Star Wars. Like everything else ends in heartbreak, unfortunately, but there we go. I mean, when you think about the production itself, especially the Mandalorian, it's hard not to talk about the volume. What was it like working with that kind of technology? Because we're again looking at, say, your IMDb page. When you look at your previous work, I'd imagine you'd not really seen anything like the volume before. I mean, no one had, right? That must have been crazy. How was that shown to you the first time round?
When I went to the studios for a fitting, Deb Chow actually was there, and I ran into her, and she's like, hey, do you want to come and see the volume? And I was like, what's that? And she's like, it's
a nightclub.
You have to see it. And I was like, whoa. They were still obviously doing tests, so I didn't really see anything on the screens, but it's just like stepping into Star Wars. So it was, I felt very, very fortunate. You didn't have to use your imagination at all. You were there. The Jawa trawler, it was there. Jawas were there. It really helped me. And it is very believable, because I remember when we were shooting the chase scene back to the Razor Crest with Kuill, there are different time speeds of, for the screens, and everything is moving. And then we were getting ready to shoot me on the blurg, moving as fast as possible. And I just remember Kim, our first AD, is like, okay, brace yourselves because the screen's going to start moving pretty fast. And I don't think everybody had heard that. And right in front of me, when it started, there were a few people that kind of did like this jump. So,
wow.
And so, yeah, it felt like I was there, riding the blurg and trying to get back to the Razor Crest. So it was amazing.
That technology looks unreal. The more I see of it, the more it's easy to sit here and think, man, why didn't they think of that before? But technology wasn't there, and we're getting to that point now where I can watch something like Mando, and it's very hard sometimes to kind of notice the volume, to think, okay, they're not really on this lava planet, or Kuill isn't actually trying to shoot back to the Razor Crest. You believe that it's actually happening.
Yeah.
And so the characters that you've played we've mentioned some of the fun moments, or the I word, some of the iconic moments of Frog Lady and Kuill. Question for you though is, out of all of your time spent on Mando, season 1 and 2, what's the kind of do you have a favourite moment on set, whether it is a scene, sequence, like chatting to someone? What was the one memory you took away from it?
Oh gosh, there are so many. I love every single day on set. I will say one that I think because it was Halloween, and, our unit was shooting well into the wee hours of that night. And it was the scene where, Kuill is taking Grogu to the blurg, and we're going to try to get back to the Razor Crest. So it was that moment of, Grogu over my shoulder and separating from Mando and, that team. And so when we were shooting that, obviously I have a team of 3 puppeteers. Grogu has his team, and at this time and moment too, he was cabled. So it was a parade, it was like, and camera was on a dolly. And so it's the camera and that team. Grogu's team was on the left and my team was on the right. And so we really had to work out timing of this whole parade of people, like moving across the stage. And, of course, anytime I got to interact with, at that time it was Baby Yoda, I was so excited. And so
you lucky lady
moment, yes, where I got to hold him and, and walk away and carry him. And I was just melting inside. So,
well, I was actually going to ask, with Grogu, or like you said back then, Baby Yoda,
little baby,
it was obviously a secret, wasn't it? And
yes.
Really, it was like one of the best kept secrets in TV. How on earth did you keep that secret? Because, did you not even take a selfie? Did you not sneak in your iPhone and let me just snap a few photos of this cheeky lad? But how was that?
No way. I love my job so much. Lucasfilm, they aren't kidding when they say no pictures, no social media.
Unless it's George Lucas.
Yeah, and obviously if you were, but they just wanted it to be a beautiful reveal. So I was really happy that they were successful in doing that, because obviously it was, like anything, it could be risky, and they couldn't do any prototypes for any of the Squishmallows or any of the Grogu dolls or figures or anything, until obviously he was revealed. So I was excited and happy, because I remember the first time I saw him, I was at Legacy Effects and they were building him too. And my friend Connie, she was doing the hair punch on his little fuzz on the top of his head. And I rounded the corner. I was just like, oh, is that a baby Yoda?
Yeah. No.
And I was like, busted. Oh my God. I was just like, I can't even. It's like, people are going to lose their minds.
They did. And they did.
Yes.
You're talking about a Grogu Squishmallow. I want a Frog Lady Squishmallow. So if anybody
Me
out there knows where I can
too.
get one, get me a
I
Frog
know.
Mellow. Frog Mellow? Yeah, we're going to call it a Frog Mellow. I have some here for my daughters, but we need to get a Frog Lady one.
Yeah. I'm secretly hoping for a Frog Lady pop, because I think the pops are really cute. So
I am surprised that there hasn't been. I mean, to be honest, they have been slow on the uptake of getting certain things from Mando or like the Rise of Skywalker out there. But I think we'll be seeing. We have to see more, especially when season 3 starts. It's funny when the new season comes out, they start backing up and releasing stuff from the prior season. I would be remiss not to ask Missy, and you know what's coming next. I've mentioned season 3, and I think we already know the answer. But what you got planned for season 3? Have you in it?
Well, all I can say is my birthday was August 14th, and obviously being a part of season 3 was my birthday wish. So here's hoping that comes true.
Fingers crossed.
Yes.
Wow. Wow. So I'm going to take that as Frog Lady returns with 2 huge blasters, and she's back for revenge. Revenge of the Frog Lady.
She's a good shot.
She is.
Just expanding on that, are you at all involved in any of the other Star Wars projects? Because there are so many Star Wars projects coming out at the moment, and there's a few I think going on in California. So Obi-Wan Kenobi. What else is there? Andor is in the UK. I think there's. Which one is it, Matty Boy?
Well, they're the ones mainly in production. Mando season 3 starts soon, so we're led to believe Ahsoka hasn't started yet. So.
Oh, and there's Book of Boba Fett. That's the one I was forgetting.
Book of
Boba Fett. Yeah.
Yes.
Can you reveal anything on those yet? Again, I know we're putting you on an awkward situation, but listen, that's what podcasting's for, isn't it?
Right.
Come on.
I just know that it is going to premiere December of this year. And I was very excited and, again, kind of, I guess you could say, dumbfounded. It's like, why me? The Star Wars Insider magazine is coming out in October. And Kuill, I did an interview with the Boba Fett fan club, and they decided to choose to share that interview. So I'm excited about that. So.
Nice.
Yeah, and it kind of ties in, I feel, with the anticipation of the upcoming Boba Fett series. So,
okay.
We'll be getting our hands on a Star Wars Insider next month, won't we, Nicky Boy? Just for the you heard it here. The Book of Frog Lady premieres next year. Last question then from me. It's a general Star Wars question. We always ask our guests this. Out of all of the films released, which one is your favourite Star Wars film?
Oh, man. That's a challenging one to answer. It's a 2-part answer.
Ooh. Controversial.
Yeah, because for me, and obviously with my career, it all feels like this moment-to-moment, meant-to-be kind of thing. When we were introduced to Yoda in The Empire Strikes Back, I was just like, whoa!
That music.
I was, and just that Luke training with Yoda. I was a gymnast, and, watching him do handstands and front tucks and his training and stuff, I was like, I could be a Jedi. So I loved, The Empire Strikes Back for that very reason. But I'd have to say, I don't know. Return of the Jedi was pretty magical.
Yes.
I was a little kid, and I didn't understand trilogies. I was pretty upset after The Empire Strikes Back, and I just couldn't understand why someone would freeze a person and a thing, and
cut their hand off. And
it was a lot. So getting to come back and watch the Return of the Jedi, that was pretty amazing. So growing up with Star Wars like that was just, it was special. And again, the way that George Lucas tells these stories, and in the same way that now Jon Favreau is telling stories, it's inspiring. And it really does, I don't know, it has an impact. It had an impact on me, for sure. So,
and now you're in it.
Now I'm in it.
Wow, how surreal.
In the world.
How surreal. How surreal. Honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, Misty. I just have to ask one more thing.
Ooh.
Now, it's all well and good seeing you guys, going to conventions and whatnot in the US, but Misty, when is Kuill and Frog Lady going to visit a Comic-Con in Europe? Specifically London. When are you going to come? When are you going to come to our end to London to visit us?
Oh man,
is that going to happen?
As soon as possible. I would love to. I love the UK, and actually, some of my closest friends, they lived here in Los Angeles. This family, the Lucas family, I lived in a guest house, and they lived in the house in front of mine. And we literally just became a little family together. And so, and I've known their son Austin since he was 2, and Henry since he was born. And it's just like they're in their teens now, and obviously taking the Mandalorian journey with me. So we, stay in touch, and they're in the UK, and I love them, and I can't wait to see them and to meet everybody, to meet the fans over there. So, because you guys are pretty amazing. Sorry about that.
The fans here waiting to meet you.
Well, it just so happens that we say to every person that we have on the show, we say, look, let's meet up in the UK, whenever you visit in London. We'll go for a pint and then go for a curry afterwards, because believe it or not, Indian food is the most popular food in Britain now. Fun fact. We absolutely adore it, and we take it quite seriously. It is the best food in the world. I will fight to the death on that one. So the offer stands. If you ever fancy it, you, Brendan, Wayne, a few of the other Mandalorian cast and crew, if you ever fancy going for a few pints, a curry and maybe some karaoke, then the offer
Brendan's
is
already signed up, hasn't he?
He's basically coming over whenever he can for that. So, the offer's there. The offer is there.
I'm a huge Ted Lasso fan too.
Yes.
So, I adore that. That is my favorite show. And, and again, it's just nice to see your culture and the fans, obviously, and it's just so sweet and endearing that, he's a football coach.
I know.
Football is a different sport in the UK. And,
for starters, you don't use a football. You use some mental alternative to a rugby ball.
You don't really use your feet in the game either, other than to run, I guess. But,
but do you know what?
Ted Lasso's great.
We'll let you off. And did you know, Misty, football nearly came home this year? Nearly did. It didn't. Italy beat England, but it nearly did.
So
it nearly
close.
Did. So there's always next year. There's always next year.
There's always next year.
Misty, it has been absolutely awesome talking to you, talking The Mandalorian. We look forward to seeing you in whatever comes up in the future. I'm just going to leave that there. But thank you so much for coming on and spending some of your valuable time with us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, Luke and Matt. It was just so much fun to talk and laugh with you about all things Mandalorian and Star Wars.
Some may even say this is the way.
It is. This is the way. And of course, I have spoken.
Ah.